In this video, I'm going to explain to you why it feels like no matter how many certifications that you do, how many tasks from management that you take on, you still can't seem to get paid what you're actually worth. I've been in your shoes before. I started my journey as a lowly salesperson, barely hitting targets, to now leading a team of high-performing project managers, all in a span of 4 years. I made tons of mistakes, a ton of wasted months, and I want to share with you everything I did that helped me 4x my income in a matter of months. So this is the situation. You're the one who notices when a deal has been sitting in the pipeline for too long. You're the one who flags it to the team before they even ask. And you're the one executing the project plan, chasing up approvals, and keeping the whole thing from falling apart. And at the end of the month, your job title still says virtual assistant. Now maybe it doesn't say that. Maybe it says coordinator or admin or specialist. Doesn't matter what's actually printed on the contract. What matters is actually what you do every single day. And for a lot of you watching this, what you actually do looks a lot more like a project manager than whatever your job title currently claims. You're the one who knows the business better than half the people in your own team. You're the one who catches the thing that nobody else sees, the broken workflow, the deal that has gone quiet, the report that doesn't actually match what the reps is thinking it's happening. You flag it, you fix it, and then you move on to whatever the next thing is, because that's just what you do. So here's a question I want you to actually sit with. If you disappeared from your role tomorrow, how long would it actually take before everything falls apart? A day? An hour? And for most of you, it feels like it's almost immediate. The system would start breaking quietly in the background and nobody senior would even notice until someone complained. That's not the profile of a person in the support function. That's a profile of somebody actually running the operation. And so here's the thing that actually makes this harder to see than it should be. Because you're good at your job, right? That's why this chaos never actually happens. Your boss never sees the deal that almost died in the pipeline because you caught it. The team never really finds out about the workflow that's going to send off 300 contacts a broken email because you fixed it at midnight before anyone else logged on. Your competence is invisible by default because the entire point of doing your job well is that nothing visibly goes wrong, which means that the better you are at your job, the less anyone actually notices that you're doing it well. And that's the cruel part, because the skill that should be getting you promoted is the same exact skill that's keeping you hidden. And if that's you, I want to tell you something that took me 4 years to actually fully understand. Because you're not underpaid because you lack skill, you're underpaid because of this trap that no one actually warns you about until it's too late into your career. So here's the trap, right? Most people think that the path to more pay looks like this. Get certified, prove that you're capable, and then eventually someone notices and gives you more responsibility. I mean, that feels right? Because that's how school taught us. So you study, pass the test, you get the grade, hooray. So naturally we assume that work would operate the same way. Do the certifications, prove your competence, and then wait for the reward. But unfortunately, that order is backwards. And this has a name. Psychologists call it the competency recognition gap. You can be operating at a senior level for months, sometimes even years, before anyone fully acknowledges it. Because recognition always falls behind and lags behind capability. Now, this is not malicious, right? It's not even anyone's fault, really. Companies just don't have a system for noticing quiet competence. They have a system for reacting to problems, sure. So if you're not creating problems and you're just quietly handling everything well, you're actually invisible by design. And companies don't promote the moment you become valuable. They promote the moment that you're forced to admit it. And that's usually because something almost broke and you were the one who held it together or fixed it. So let me show you what this actually looks like in practice, because I don't want this to be abstract in any nature. Imagine that we've got 2 HubSpot applicants, both going for the same role. Applicant A has 8 free certifications completed. Every badge HubSpot Academy offers, inbound marketing, sales hub, service hub, the bells and whistles, right? All of it. Their resume is just basically a wall full of logos. But applicant B has only 2 certifications. But in the interview, when they were asked about the time that they solved the real problem, they don't just recite some bland and boring definition. They actually walk through an actual situation, a real life case. For example, a client's lead routing system was broken, specifically why, deals were sitting untouched for days, what they did to actually fix it, how they noticed the pattern, diagnosed it, rebuilt the workflow, and explained exactly what changed afterwards in a plain language that a business owner would understand. Now, the question is, who gets hired? Obviously, it's applicant B. Almost every single time. And once you understand why, you'll never look at certifications the same way again. because certificates just prove that you finish a course. They prove discipline, sure, that's not nothing, but they don't prove that you have judgment. A real story proves that you can think under pressure on a live system with a real client watching you on the spot. That's the actual skill that employers are buying into. It's not knowledge, but judgment. Now, I lived through this exact same thing. I had certifications, I waited for them to speak for me, and they never did. I was running half of the business decisions in a HubSpot portal, quietly making calls that affected real revenue, and I'm still being treated like the person who just executes what somebody else decides. And I was sick and tired of it. So, if certifications aren't the path, then what is? I want to give you an actual roadmap, because once you can see it, you know exactly where you are and exactly what you're missing out on and what to do about it when. There are 4 stages every HubSpot specialist career actually moves through, whether anyone tells you this specifically or not. Now, I didn't have this roadmap when I first started out, and I had to figure it out the hard way, stage by stage over 4 years. You don't have to. Stage 1 is coordinator. This is where almost everyone starts. There's no shame in that. Everyone starts here, including myself. You're given tasks, you execute them well, you don't drop the ball. Because what you earn at this stage is actually trust in your reliability. Not your judgment just yet, but your reliability. That's an important distinction, because for a lot of people, they actually get stuck here for years, thinking that the more reliable they are, that's their way out. But unfortunately, this isn't the case. You can be the most reliable coordinator in the company and still be a coordinator 5 years from now. That's because reliability was never really the issue at hand, okay? Stage 2 is specialist. This is where you stop just executing tasks and start understanding the system underneath them. You learn the data model, the logic, the why behind the how. A coordinator actually follows a process. A specialist understands why the process exists and can spot it when it goes wrong. What you learn here is now creeping into what we call technical trust. People start asking you questions instead of giving you just blind instructions. Now, stage 3 here is project manager. This is the stage that most people honestly, unfortunately, never reach. And it's not because the HubSpot skills gets harder per se, but the nature of the job changes completely. It now isn't about knowing more HubSpot anymore. It's about owning outcomes. You stop asking what to do and you start deciding on what should happen. You walk into a client call already knowing what they need before they finish explaining the problem. What you earn here is ownership. People stop checking your work and start trusting your direction. This is also the stage where most specialists get stuck without realizing it, because the skills that got you to specialist actually worked against you here. As a specialist, being thorough and careful is rewarded. But as a PM, hesitation reads as weakness. A client doesn't want you to list every possible option. They want you to make a call and own what happens next. That is a different muscle entirely, and nobody tells you that you need to build it, so people just keep doing more specialist work more thoroughly and wonder why their title never changes. And last but not least is stage 4, strategist. Here is where it gets really interesting, because you're not managing a portal anymore. You're shaping how a business actually runs. You're in the room when decision gets made, not because you were invited as a courtesy call, but because your opinion changes the outcome. What you earn here is authority in the room, the kind where people start asking what you think before they decide anything else. Now pay attention here, because this is what actually makes the difference. Most people get stuck between stage 1 and stage 2 for years, maybe sometimes their entire career. And it's not due to the lack of smarts. Nobody told them that the roadmap to stage 3 and 4 even exists in the first place, and it's closer than they think, let alone telling them the roadmap to actually get there. They think that the only way to grow is to do more of what they're already doing, faster and better. While that's great, but coordinator work still done perfectly is still coordinator work. It doesn't get you promoted, it just makes you a very good coordinator. So here's the part that's going to sound very weird and backwards, but I want you to really sit with this one, because it is the single biggest shift that I had to make. You think the way to move from coordinator to project manager is to wait until you're given PM responsibilities and prove that you can handle them. You earn the title first and then you act like it. Actually, it's the opposite. You have to start operating like a project manager before anyone gives you the title. And I know it sounds unfair. Why should you do the job before you're getting paid for the job? But here's why it has to work that way. It's not unfair once you understand what's the underlying mechanism. Nobody can promote a version of you that they haven't seen yet. A title is a label someone puts on a pattern of behavior that they've already witnessed, in part, not the full thing, but in part. If the behavior doesn't yet exist, there's nothing for them to actually recognize and reward. So if you're waiting for the title before you change your behavior, that means that you'll be waiting forever, because you're asking them to bet on future potential, and most companies don't actually bet. They confirm with their intuition and what they see in the grounds. So what does operating as a PM before the title actually look like? Let's be specific, okay? It's the language you use in updates, reporting outcomes instead of just the number of tasks completed. It's flagging a risk before it becomes a problem. Instead of waiting to be asked why something broke, you walk into a call already knowing what they need instead of waiting to be told what to do next. Title then follows behavior. It almost never works the other way around. And once you see that, you stop waiting around and start building the evidence yourself to justify the position that you want. This is the exact shift that I had to make. And it's the same exact shift that I now walk people through week on week inside of a community made for this. I hire for this exact role that you are after. And I built this community that consists of real project managers under my wing to show you that it is possible. This is not more certifications, okay? You can do those on your own time. This is the actual language, the actual case studies, the actual stories, and the actual confidence of someone operating 2 stages ahead of their job title. The thing that actually turns a coordinator into someone a business trusts to run the room. Remember this, you were never behind, you were just never shown the door. And if you're done waiting to be noticed, join me down below. See you in the next one. Take care.